How's the
Yeah.
weather?
Wonderful. It was hot and now it's back to normal, which in May should be like in the 40s and 50s in the night and then like the
Oh,
60s to 70s during the day, which is
nice.
fabulous. Yeah, the summers are incredible in New England.
I've never been. I definitely want to
Yeah,
go.
well, definitely you should visit. Yeah.
So, welcome to the Now Podcast, episode 19. Today, Courtney and I are thrilled to introduce a thought leader, game changer, and powerhouse connector who is determined to ignite and support bold journeys for others. Leigh Burgess, the CEO and founder of Bold Industries, has built a dynamic platform for uniting, inspiring, and empowering women worldwide. Through her Bold events, the Bold Leaders Collective membership, the Bold Lounge podcast, and her impactful speaking engagements, she focuses on the intersection of mindset, strategy, and wellness. Her unique believe, own, learn, and design bold framework serves as a map to living a bold life. So join us in welcoming Leigh.
Thank you
Welcome.
so much. Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
We're so thrilled to have you here. I know we saw the article on you in Success Magazine, which is how Michelle connected with you.
Yeah, definitely on Instagram, and then it was my second time being in Success. This time for the 50 Women of Influence, and previously for the top 125 leaders to watch a year ago. So yeah, so excited about the conversation and our connection.
well, tell our listeners a little bit about Leigh and who you are. Let's start with that.
Sure, sure. So you did a great job of introing kind of the professional side of me. So from the perspective of who I am, I would introduce myself as an innovative agitator, someone who wants to make a difference in the world in a positive way. I say my mission is to solve problems for good, meaning they don't come back, and for the good of the world and for the individuals and organizations that I work for. I formed my company in 2020 after experiencing tremendous burnout and not really realizing it was, or naming it, burnout at that time. And I took one of the biggest swings of bold in my life, which was quitting my job without having a job. But I knew I needed to make that change and choose me, choose my family, choose my relationships above my work. So that was my big swing of bold, and that's really how the bold framework came about. I didn't go throughout my life going, I'm hashtag bold, I'm bold this or bold that. I didn't have one piece of clothing that said bold on it, and now I think it's like bold, bold, bold in my closet now. But I think I was always bold, but just didn't name it. And so the creation of the framework really came from that one statement that I would make with my teams, which was, we will take a big swing of bold here, and we would be normally innovating or elevating or taking something to the next level with some risk or with some potential of failing, but really being thoughtful and pragmatic about it.
I love that. Well, I just think that's so great. The whole bold branding. It's not only catchy, it's just so inspiring.
Right?
Everything
It
about
needs I think, everyone, I think the definition of bold is very personal too. There's certainly some things that I think cross over. One of the first questions I ask every guest on my podcast is, what's your definition of bold? My definition of bold is really stepping into fear or stepping into the unknown without really knowing whether you succeed or fail, but doing it anyway. And then I think what you realize then is it can be very freeing. It can be very educational. It can be very exciting. I think there's, lots of adjectives that probably describe those steps. But I think it's a personal definition, and it doesn't always have to be something loud. It doesn't have to be something seen and social. My probably boldest moments were my quietest moments, especially when, for example, like making that decision to quit my job and really just stop fighting, fighting whatever was happening with me, where I was just trying to make it work, be tougher, be stronger, work harder. Whatever it was, I was still trying to do it, and it just was not working. So that quiet, bold moment of like, I've got to do something different after kind of, you just keep running into a wall so many times, you finally learn, like, I just got to do something different. So quiet and, being bold are certainly something that, I don't think people always think that's what it means, but it's really your personal definition.
So when you made that move, what industry were you in that you were leaving in 2020? Was it the healthcare?
Sure, yeah. It's healthcare, yeah. So I've been in healthcare the majority of my career, large, incredible institutions that I worked in, leading really large teams of operational units. So I was particularly in clinical research, so leading large groups of individuals who were making a positive difference in the lives of our patients. And so a lot of responsibility, a lot of, I think, innovation, a lot of excitement, a lot of impact. And I think it just added up over years of me, one, being an overachiever, I think in the sense of like doing great, but then like, okay, good, let's do better. And I do think it's important to always, strive for your best. But I think I overused that muscle a little bit. And I think the other muscle that I overused a bunch was just responsibility. Like I took on responsibilities that weren't even mine to take on, but trying to protect or negate, something going wrong or keep something bad from happening. I don't mean like something catastrophic. I just mean like down to the, level of perfectionism that I think I was at. Like, if we weren't doing something perfectly, then I thought I was failing, failing who I was working for or failing the patients or failing it's just in general. So, but it just got to a point where, it wasn't true. The things I was saying to myself weren't accurate, and I came to that realization. But healthcare is where I was at.
Okay. Yeah, it's like the story you tell yourself, right? Which doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Like sometimes you ask yourself, like, would you say that to a friend? Like you wouldn't, So I was kind of like having those moments of, just like really a lot of negative speak and not a lot of sleep, not a lot of, movement, just really heads down. A really typical day was a 17-hour day. So 2020 was also a pretty radically weird and awful time in the world. And so I think that also, really exacerbated any type of, if I had it, like it just went 10 times in that particular time, and being in healthcare at that time as well.
So what was the conversation like with your family on like, I'm going to abandon this career that I've committed to, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, or I am figuring it out. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, I don't think I ever thought of abandonment, like of my career, but certainly throughout my career, I never thought I could be an entrepreneur, never, made a plan for it, never read magazines, never, just did not explore that. It was a very corporate, get this degree, get that level, once you get to this level, then there's that level. So it was a lot of continuing, through my career. And I was a chief in the C-suite early on. So in my early 40s, I was in the C-suite. So for me, it was a continual, like, what's next? What can I achieve? So that was kind of ingrained in me from a healthcare perspective. So I didn't think about being an entrepreneur because I didn't think it was stable. I didn't think that that's something I could make a living doing. But I certainly had when I have my own company, when I'm a CEO, if I write a book, like those types of things, which now I'm all of those things. I just didn't think it was possible. So when I had that conversation with my family, they almost cheered. I mean, I think the thing about burnout is everyone around you knows it, but you. At least that was my case. Because I thought I just wasn't trying hard enough. I wasn't doing things well enough. I wasn't giving enough effort. It's very illogical. Right? 17-hour days, doing a good job, incredible team, leading incredible work. And I still thought I wasn't succeeding. So I think, and it was a very stressful time too. So my family's response to that was, very, very supportive. The person I was most worried about telling was my mom, because grew up in a home of like, you get your degree, you go to school, you have a 401k, you have insurance, all this stuff, which, we now know, at least I now know, that just being in corporate America doesn't equal stability either, because of, at any moment, they could make a decision to downsize or to change or, change in leadership, those types of things where things aren't as stable as one may think. And it's very possible to have a 401k and to get insurance and to do those things as an entrepreneur. It takes effort, it takes choice, and things don't happen by chance. And so I think that's really, really important. But my family was extremely supportive. I bootstrapped my company, so it was here's our savings, here's my retirement, using a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and delaying things that potentially we had thought about for a while. And my initial intention was first to heal, which is really that period of time after I gave my notice. I took some time off because you don't heal from burnout by jumping right into something else. And it doesn't mean if you have burnout once that it won't come back. And I think I've learned that too as an entrepreneur. Like, oh, there's a sign, like I'll pay attention to this time because I did it before. So I think for me, it was really focusing in on the mindset and the wellness piece of my journey, and then getting into the strategy, which really that's the focal point of the Bold framework and the work that I do with organizations and individuals is really that, trifecta of focus, not just on strategy and how well do I do and how am I performing, but also what's my mindset and am I taking care of myself? And I don't just mean the spa day, although those are wonderful. I mean, really your whole, 360 degree of your mindset of your emotional health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and really thinking about, how your mindset supports that. So really that was the focus right after I gave my notice was like, how do I kind of heal and kind of get back and claim back who I am? Because I really felt like I wasn't me anymore.
So, we're in real estate. I've been in real estate and lending for 20 years. I love it. Definitely have experienced burnout in over the 2 decades in my career. I think there's a lot of realtors out there that could be experiencing it as we speak. It's been volatile market the last couple of years. We came off of the scare of COVID to the craziness of insanely successful market where most of us were making a lot of money to this major shift of very little inventory and about half the number of transactions that we normally see. So if someone were to come to you in our field and say, I need some help, how do I utilize your Bold framework to get over this burnout? I mean, where would you start and how would that look? Is it one-on-one? Is it a group? What would that look like?
I think that's personal too. I think I do both. And again, when I went into my business, really what I want to do is resettle back into where was I finding joy? Where was my passion? And where was my purpose? So I think there's always a check yourself with that when you get to this place. Because at one point I didn't know whether I would do anything with healthcare again. I was like, wow, I'm 48. I was 48 at that time. And I was like, I can be anything I want. What do I want to be? And I hadn't really had that type of, you even see me smile when I say that, but it's just like, we don't get to feel that way usually in our late 40s. But I had that moment and I was like, wow, what a privilege to be able to be at that point, to have saved and to do these things and have a little bit of time to really kind of be what I want to be. And I was like, I'll be an interior designer. I love designing. I love spaces. I love creating, places where, I call it earthy luxury, where you kind of walk in, you get this hug, what you feel so still down to earth. And I think, I was like I took courses, this was again, 2020. And I was like, wow, there's like no way that I could support my family, for a while, it was going to take a while. And, I'm not inherently rich or anything like that. So I need to make a living. And so I was like, okay, could I, potentially do something else in healthcare? And that's really where I was like, I think I could go back. I just want to work with the people who want to move fast, who want to work at a level that is far above mediocrity. I want to work with people who, are looking for excellence. And I created several platforms and different ways to do things. So I think when it comes to, someone in real estate, I think it is a high performance, high energy industry, right? Extremely competitive, I'm assuming at times, as well as demanding. And your days, I always wonder, what do you own of your time? We see all these shows on there's a gazillion of them now on Netflix of, real estate in every state, and all the different kinds. But it's when do you own your time and how do you, claim it back? So first thing I would probably ask someone is are you still enjoying what you're doing? Is it still feeding you in some form or fashion? Does it give you energy? Does it give you excitement? Is it is it a skill set that, you're learning? and are you excited about it? And the answer could be no, not anymore, or not right now. It doesn't mean it won't come back. I think it's just like you might need to find it again. And to find it, the framework itself, so it starts with believe, which is really kind of what are your beliefs right now? And what are they helping you? Are they hindering you, kind of holding you back? Or are they actually harming you? Some of my thoughts were harming me because I thought I was responsible for everything. I thought I had to do things at this level of, I didn't even know I had perfectionism. Like I just didn't even think that that was me. So a lot of blind spots for me and shadows, I think, too, of where things were coming from. So I had to unpack that. So that would be something that we would do. And you can do that one-to-one or in a group. And really just understanding your beliefs, because it's the base for everything else you're doing. So if you're working really hard, why are you working so hard? Well, what does hard mean, right? So really understanding that. Is it about time? Is it about who you're working with? Maybe you need just a different group of people to be working with. Because I think sometimes just that change can lift you up. Because sometimes there's toxic work environments or environments that aren't aligned, maybe were at one point, but aren't anymore. And then going into ownership of what you own and what you don't own. But number one is you own your story. Like nobody else does. So I can't save you. I can't help you. Your mom, your dad, your husband, your friend, your sister, they can't help you either unless you own it. Like your steps forward really are your steps. And I think sometimes people live in a world of it's happening to me, or there's no way that I could, or all these things could happen. And it absolutely, when you're being bold, you are being thoughtful and pragmatic, and you're not just doing things without thinking it through. It's a very thoughtful process. I think that's a myth about being bold, that people think that it's just, jumping and not caring or looking. But then you kind of go into your learning. So as a realtor, what have you learned so far about your career? What has fed you? What has taken you or evolved you from one level to the next? And what does that look like? And then how do we design your life moving forward? So that's kind of just a real quick wheel of kind of going through it, but with obviously some stops along the way, digging into the belief. And I think it's important for people to realize too, you might go through it once and do every letter, but you might need to go back and revisit it and maybe ooh, what's happening with my beliefs right now? Or am I taking on too much? So you can go back and just visit a particular place or space within the framework as well, as you continue your journey forward. And the ultimate goal is just to be aligned with your passion and purpose and living the life you're meant to live now, not later.
Well, yeah, no, I love that. And I kind of hear a theme amongst all of the bold steps of just being very intentional with all these 100%. Areas.
Yeah.
I love
that. Yeah. Intentional and present. So I think there's, so intentional meaning that I'm really going to think about my beliefs. I'm really going to understand and be present, what's happening inside me right now? Why am I feeling this way? Things I ignored. For example, I ignored how irritable I was. I ignored that I was only sleeping 2 hours a day. I ignored my weight gain. I ignored the high level of stress that I had. I went for a month and a half. I needed a root canal. And if anyone's ever had a root canal, it's extremely painful when you know you need one. So I went a month and a half. So almost, whatever that is, 45 days. And again, during the pandemic, needing a root canal and just putting it off and just taking, the lowest level, ibuprofen, thinking that was doing it. But I think what was and I tell this story because when I finally went and got the root canal, I didn't even realize how much pain I was in till it was over and done. And there's these pictures of me, and it was during the pandemic, so very, very hard to get an appointment, anyone to see you, those types of things. I actually ended up driving back to North Carolina to see my old dentist, who was the only one who would see me during that time. Personal record of getting from, New England to North Carolina too was 11 hours, which never happens.
Oh my gosh.
Because of traffic. But there's this picture of me after the root canal, and I'm just grinning ear to ear, and I was just I didn't even realize how much pain I was in. And I kind of juxtapose that against burnout, because you don't even realize potentially how unhappy or unhealthy you're being until you stop, until you put an end to whatever the source was for me. So those are two big examples in the sense of just You might not even know it, but I was ignoring so many signs. And, you know, it wasn't even just flashing red, like it was a red light. And I just encourage people, like, when something feels off, like, be intentional, notice it, and then be present as to, like, understand it and then do something about it.
So can you talk a little bit about the membership that you created?
Sure. Yeah. So when I first started out, I'm doing consulting and really just had a unique model and wanted to just make what I made when I was in healthcare. That was my goal. And what came out of that was something incredible of just the success that I had with the consulting, and then being able to do coaching, which I was asked to do within the organizations, to help them with either an implementation of a project or to help people understand kind of what it means to be bold, innovative, and kind of step out and stand out. And then it kind of led to my first thing that I did, which was called the Bold Retreat. And I did that in October of 22. So almost 2 full years after I started, I tried something. Because one, you need revenue to do something like that. I think a lot of people want to just do everything first. Oh, I'd love to have a membership. I'd love to have a retreat. I like to have a podcast. They want to do everything all at once. I probably sound old when I say that, but you have to take time and do it very intentionally, going back to the word you said earlier, and take the steps. So I'm walking through this because the membership was the last thing that I did. And so we did the Bold Retreat, which started out 10 to 15 women coming together, focus on mindset, strategy, and wellness. Really just all I wanted the women to do is show up and have nothing to do other than get there. So it's all inclusive. You come, everything's taken care of. We do strategy half the day together. Each one of them has a different focus. There are 5 of them that we've done so far. Every single one is sold out, and there's a waiting list of over 700 people for just the Bold Retreat. Wow. Then I went from like Bold Retreats to... Sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, just women.
Just women?
Yeah, just women. Yeah, sorry, I thought you said just one moment. Yeah, just women. Yeah, so I just started with women because, one, I think my lived experience, and then 2, just not that men aren't having challenges being bold or can't be bold, but really that's where it seemed my coaching was also going, was towards women leaders, people kind of progressing through different parts of their career journey, and then, primarily women 35 to 60, kind of in that range, who were gravitating towards me or towards what I was talking about. And from there, I said, maybe there's this opportunity to bring together people on a regular basis. And so that's where the Bold Table came out. My very first one was in January of 23. So they're just a little bit over a year old. We've done 8 of them. And they're sold out as well with 1,000. All of them have sold out in 1,000 wait list for that. And those were all about me really hating the big stand at a cocktail, table, have a prompt type of conversation events for networking. And I really just wanted to create a space. And I think this is where my design came back in, create that earthy luxury where people come together. It feels like a hug just being in the space. And I think what I started to realize when I did the retreats and the tables, and that's what I was doing, that I was creating the space, and the women coming to the space were creating the magic, the relationships, the connections, I'll support you, I'll also challenge you, and as well as champion you. And I think that's really where they started to grow, and where I really started to see the community, the Bold community, start to build. Then I launched a podcast because I really felt that a lot of women I was talking to didn't even realize they were bold. I was like, holy smokes, like, you do things like I would never do. I couldn't even do that, or things that brought me, just to tears of like, holy smokes, like, you did that and you persevered and you're so inspiring. Really wanted to amplify that, and then amplify other people's journeys as well as, definitions of bold. And then kind of just fast forward. So continuing to do those and build in the community, and offering, different types of things for folks to kind of plug in and be part of the Bold community. We got to the membership, which really was a lot of bold happening. How do we get it under one roof? Mm-hmm. How do we create a community that feels connected? There's lots of memberships out there. Like, literally, I think there's 5 new ones that I'm aware of that are even, from like, people who have been out there for a while that are launching just this month. I mean, it's seems like the thing to do. And for me, I just wanted to be different. And the way that we're different is that we grow slowly. And so just since August of last year, we've done 3 cohorts. I held enrollment in February once we got to 100 members. And I wanted to do that. One, I just didn't want to grow. It wasn't the intention of the community to just be a number. I wanted people to feel known. I wanted them to feel seen and supported. And I wanted them to feel connected. And we do that in a multitude of ways with in-person events, continuing the Bold retreats, the Bold tables. We just did this huge summit, which was incredible. And wanting the members to have first dibs on all of that. And so that's a really, really nice thing. So like, for example, the summit, probably 80% of the women there were from the collective. And so that was really nice for them to see each other in person. And then we come into a community in our online community virtually through Bold Power Hours and member meetups. But I think what's different about us is just we get to know each other in a 360-degree way. It isn't about being a mom. It isn't about being a mompreneur. It isn't about being a C-suite level executive. It isn't about X, Y, or Z founder, and there's lots of really good memberships out there. You find the one that matches your needs and what you need. And I think what we want to offer is just, I want to know like how you're doing. Like we have members knowing like when things are happening in someone's life, like a lot of graduations just happened, so like people feeling like, oh, wow, like my last child just graduated. So like that's a feeling as a mom or a woman, or I'm helping my dad because my mom passed away, so my dad's moving in, or my son just got married, or whatever it may be. Like there's good, there's bad, but that's kind of like what our lives are about. And so really understanding that, as well as I'm a chief executive officer and I have a strategic plan and all these other things that we do. So really wanting to support women in a 360-degree way is what we're all about in the Bold Leaders Collective.
That's great. Yeah. Can see why you're on the top list for leaders and female entrepreneurs. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Want to be bold like you. And I'm sure many listening will agree, and maybe you can tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure. Yeah. So the best place to find me is leighburgess.com, and that's my website. And all the information about the things I spoke about, getting on our free newsletter, it's the Bold Bulletin, and being able to just connect into the community and then learn more about us is the best is a website. And then the book will come out this fall, and it is all about how to take that framework and apply it to your life, on the whole continuum of Bold, whether it's a quiet moment you're having, somewhere in between, or something big that you want to do. That book will help you kind of work through that.
Well, maybe we'll have to have you back after the book comes out.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Definitely interested in that table event as well. I know that was in New York, but do you do stuff on the West Coast or primarily on the East Coast?
Yeah, so we were in Napa for a Bold retreat in February. So yeah, we do a lot on the East Coast just because of it's easier, most likely for us in our events and things that we do and pop around. But with the book, definitely we're going on a book tour throughout the U.S., and we're picking our spots outside the U.S. So right now, definitely want to pop into London and Paris for the book tour, and then multiple spots in the U.S. I would love to have some type of retreat in Malibu. Like that is on my list. I've never been. It just looks incredible.
Maybe we can go to that one. We are outside Yosemite, which is a beautiful area, just so you know.
Oh, that's beautiful too. Yeah, absolutely.
Different kind of beauty than Malibu.
Yeah. Great place.
Well, different. Yeah, I'm in New Hampshire, so like I definitely get, the beauty. Obviously not the same level as Yosemite, but certainly get the beauty of being out in nature and in the mountains.
Well, we so thank you for taking the time to chat with us today, and we'll definitely be, continue to listen to your podcast and following your success and all your bold moves. So thank you so much, Leigh.
Thank you, Leigh.
Sure. All right. Thank you very much for having me. Take good care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.